Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named buried. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies. The truth is calling, and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the true crime journey with Jewels of Thought and her gemstone family.
All right, everybody. I hope that you are very excited that it is Friday afternoon. Thank God it is Friday. Remember? Yes. Hey, Mark Klein. Good to see you. Sketty Nona. This is sincerely one scary dude. And we're no longer sitting around saying, well, is it just us or has he always been creepy? And we now have enough information from the previous schools that he worked at, the parents of students that were in his class. No, he's creepy. It's not just his appearance. He's a weird dude, very much like who? Yeah, Bryan Kohberger, right, Justice Jane? Yep, it's hard to ignore those deep set sunken eyes, those heavy eyebrows. Man, it's hard to ignore. The other thing that keeps popping in my head, is this guy was kind of short, right? He's like 5'9", 5'10". He's just kind of medium build. Isn't that what Dylan said about the killer in Idaho 4? That the guy that she saw with the big bushy eyebrows, wasn't he like shorter than her? She said he was like 5'9", 5'10". Now, I'm definitely not saying that Bryan Kohberger is innocent, not by a long shot. I'm saying weird, really weird that one of the most heinous people that we know of right now in our day and time has a doppelganger. So it's so chilling and frightening. Truly. Just another human. Welcome. Good day, Jules. It's good to see you. Just another human. Texas Lassie, welcome. Is it hotter than hell or what? Hey, KJ Matt, good to see you. Lady Rebel, welcome. Thank you for being here. Ennis and Junie, welcome you guys. And Martian True Crime Planet and Mark Klein. And I'm going to go ahead and get started, or we might be here all day. All right. I hope everybody's doing great. Now then, it's a crazy story. There is absolutely no doubt about the craziness of the story. And I've got something here that I want to play. And then we're going to talk about when psychopaths kill. We're going to talk about what does that actually mean, this whole psychopathy question. Are all psychopaths, are they all killers? How do you know when a psychopath will kill versus when they're not going to kill? And I mean, a lot of people are really surprised to find out that many of those big Fortune 500 companies, those CEOs, your government officials, there are many of them that are very, very high in psychopathy, might even warrant a diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder. And yet, they're some of the most famous people we know. It's a little scary. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and what are some of the factors that might end up making some of these people kill? Why do they kill? That there are reasons that they kill. But I did find this clip, and I thought that, hey, that's kind of interesting. So let's play these shorts, because they kind of illustrate all the different reasons that people might kill, or specifically serial killers in this example. This Eileen Wuornos, her claim to fame is one of the first known female serial killers. She killed men that she envisioned as men that were taking advantage of women. So she would set them up. She'd be like, hey, baby, you want to, I'll make you happy for $5. And then they would need to be executed, because how dare they hurt women? So she was one of these killers that had a belief that she was on a special mission, and she was somehow doing something valuable, something good for the world by knocking off all these men. All right, so let's take a listen. And you'll get a feel for her very charismatic, very extroverted personality.
Why on earth would you have hurt those people? Why did you kill those people?
No comments. No comments. I cannot answer it at this time.
My guess is because he is a sexual sadist. I think he was killing because he was sexually aroused to do it. And I think that he would be too embarrassed to voice that. Because in his mind, they know I'm a weirdo. In my actions are so atrocious outside of what would be considered normal in a civilized society, and yet I'm living it and I'm enjoying it. So there is some embarrassment, right? There's a little bit of insight into weakness.
And that's why you killed them.
Right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
Nonetheless.
And Jeffrey Dahmer did, in fact, keep mementos, body parts. And he had a thought disorder that somehow taking the lives of these people, that he was avoiding abandonment, that they were becoming a part of his soul and he would never be alone.
Yeah. You killed seven men. And I'm asking you, what got you to kill the seven men?
And I'm telling you because the cops want to keep killing them. Don't you get it?
Because the cops let her. It's always someone else's fault, right? Okay, I thought that was a fun little clip when we're talking about the nightmare of serial killers. Well, we need to be a bit okay. So when you say schizophrenia, you're actually talking about a diagnosis, right? An officially recognized diagnosis according to the DSM. A psychopathy is not a diagnosis. To be a psychopath is not a diagnosis. Psychopathy is a diagnostic feature. It's a sign or a symptom of something else, namely antisocial personality disorder. So we do see psychopathy in people that have depression or people that have an anxiety problem. They may be high in psychopathy. A lot of times when we do an evaluation to determine someone's level of dangerousness, to assess the possibility or the probability that they would again be violent, that they might again be aggressive. One of the important things that we look for is how much psychopathy is this person dealing with? What does their history look like? Are they having any kind of corrective emotion inside of them that says, wow, I wish I hadn't done that. That wasn't good. I'm sorry I hurt that person in my rage. The psychopaths don't have that. And I do think with our newest creep, I do think that I don't think he has any remorse. I think he went in there and he said, yeah, I did it. I did it. And we will end up finding out, well, his version of why he did it. He did say he was guilty, but he did get capital charges. And so I believe that if the death penalty is on the table, I think they're required to have a trial and a presentation of evidence, unless they have a plea deal and then they can avoid that. So I think this will be interesting. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch James Andrew McGann. I think it'll be interesting to watch this case to see, is he going to be willing to just say, I did it, I'm guilty, send me away forever? Or will he end up with an attorney who says, no, we're going to go to trial? Yes, you've got a lot of evidence against you, but we can fight the death penalty. We can fight against these capital charges and try to make it a little bit more forgiving. I've been trying to hunt down like the family that this man comes from. And I'm not going to blast their name and everything all over the place, because I'm certain that they're in deep grief themselves if their son would do this. But I think that I found the family. And if I'm right about this, then his dad is actually a teacher. So that would explain, why a guy who just seemed really disinterested in teaching, didn't really have any connection to the students at all, seemed to just bounce from one problem to another. Maybe he just naturally fell into this degree of being a teacher, is because he comes from a long line of teachers. So I'm sure that we'll be learning more about that in coming days as this case gets investigated and they make a decision, what they will end up doing. So let me put the picture back up. I get a little weirded out being on the camera, but I know I am a YouTube subscriber before I am a YouTube creator. And I do rather enjoy watching people as opposed to just doing like a podcast type of format where you're listening to a headless voice. But it's a bit weird. It's kind of strange to sit and see yourself staring back at you. So, but yeah. And, I'm not the interesting psychopath. Okay. I'm just a boring old psychologist that always hopes that when we talk about psychology, that I don't make it too blah. Okay, so I'm going to try really hard not to be blah, but still talk about some interesting, content that that will at least hold your attention when I'm not up on the screen. Okay. So, so what do we mean exactly when we talk about that someone, that their personality is characterized by a high level of psychopathy? Well, when we're talking about somebody's personality construct, we're talking about a cluster of behavioral traits, their affective state, affect being like mood state, emotional state, and then interpersonal skills, interpersonal comfort. And so when levels of psychopathy are inherently affecting one's interpersonal prowess or their emotional experiences, whether or not they can feel corrective emotion, or psychopathy, meaning do they have a severe anger problem? And so when something happens that doesn't go their way, they act out physically before they realize, oh my gosh, I just struck someone. I don't care if I struck them. I don't care if they're hurt, but I don't want to end up in jail, right? And so when we're doing these evaluations to determine whether it's a full psych eval, like on a prisoner or something, or whether it is just trying to do like a level of dangerousness evaluation. What we're going to use specifically, we use multiple tools. We use many. I always include an IQ test in my battery of tests, but included in this multiple instrument assessment, using what is known as the HARE, HARE, Psychopathy Checklist Revised. So people that are high in psychopathy, they have a pattern of disregard for others. They don't really care what other people are experiencing. There's emotional detachment, even emotional numbing sometimes, or they have extreme emotions, but they're negative emotions, and they don't feel any of the corrective emotions like guilt or shame. And then of course, all this together will lead to obviously risky or harmful type of behaviors. Like anything else with the human animal, these various traits and thought processes exist on a continuum. They can go from very mild, almost imperceptible, up to really severe and very scary. I was asked to do an evaluation one time, a guy that they had brought into a hospital, and I hated going there because it was one of those places where they lock you in. You walk in onto the floor and you hear the big slamming door in the bars, locking behind you. Anyway, I was like, okay, I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get out of there. And I'm not going to think about where I am. But I spent about maybe 15, 20 minutes in the room with this person. And I was very uncomfortable. And I thought to myself, this is a dangerous person, because my instincts were telling me, run, don't walk, get away from this person. And so I was very, very focused on the instrument. I did request that one of the guards come into the room with us. So I actually had a guard in the room. And I was very focused on the test that I was doing. And he interrupts me, very quiet, very calm. He interrupts me and he says to me, "You're scared." And I said, "How does that help you complete this assessment that I'm giving?" He said, "It's up to me if I complete it, and you're still scared." And I said, "Well, I'm not the one that is being evaluated. You are. And the judge has asked me to do this. Can we please get back and focus on what I'm saying. And he begins to laugh. And he laughed and he laughed. And the guard motioned for me to get up and leave the room. And I left the room. And I never saw him again. And I don't know what ended up becoming of him. So there are some people that are so outside of what we would consider just expected, maybe. I don't even want to say normal, but just expectation, right? You would expect that some people that are mentally ill might be a little disconcerting. No, this one, he had a really negative energy. He was really scary. But more than that, it was like he was playing. It was like he was dangling. It was like a cat and mouse kind of game. And, the guard absolutely recognized it and put an end to it. Thank goodness. And I think that was the last time I ever went back to that hospital and did an evaluation there. But yeah, that was a kind of a freaky moment. So these traits vary in intensity and severity. And usually you run across these people in like forensic situations or in clinical settings, like a mental hospital. Although certainly there are definitely successful psychopaths. These successful psychopaths, we would find them in roles related to business acumen, powerful leadership roles like politics. And so it begs the question, what are the behaviors and traits, according to research and clinical experiences, what are some of the key behaviors and traits that we would see with someone on high in psychopathy or even moderate to high in psychopathy? What are some of those traits and behaviors that we might see? And then we can ask ourselves, okay, does this sound like James Andrew McGann? All right, so that's what we're going to do. All right, I'm going to peek at the okay, everybody's good with that? If that sounds interesting, put a 1. I don't want to do it if y'all are not going to be interested. So scary. And the prisoner read your energy. Yes, Super Oro. It was not comfortable. I knew I was not the one in control in that moment. And I definitely think that's why the guard pulled me out of the evaluation, because I think he did that to reestablish control. Do you know what I mean? I think that was the way to take the psychopath and kind of put him back in his place, remind him, no, you're not in control here. So yeah, I can still remember the guy's face today. I'm talking about the guard. I can still remember his face today. I would buy him a Christmas present if I knew where he was. I was pretty scared. And this guy's eyes, I'm not talking about the fact that they're placed so far back in his head. I'm talking about he has that empty look in his eyes. They're kind of like shark eyes, right? They're there, but they're very cold, right? My dog has more wisdom, more warmth in their eyes than this dude. Okay. And I think that was a big part of this guy that I was doing the evaluation on, that said, you're scared. Didn't ask me. It was like he was in control of the room, and he was telling me how things were. He had that same kind of look. Like you would look at him and then it was like no one's home. It could have been a mannequin, really, for any kind of reaction that was in his eyes. So kind of vacant, cold. Yeah, Texas Lassie. It's when you see it, it's chilling. And no, I had somebody ask me this earlier. Does Barry Morphew have that look? No, he does not have that look. I think we definitely saw a few instances with Chris Watts, where either during an interview or photographs, you could see the look in his eyes, right? He had it. Look, many people said, no way is Chris Watts, psychopath. I am 100% convinced that not only is he high in psychopathy, I think he's primary psychopath. I think he's born with it. I don't think he has, I don't think he feels any kind of instructive emotion. He just is operating based on what he wants, right? Just wish fulfillment is all that's driving him. And when we were talking a lot about Chris Watts, I often gave the example related to his type of psychopathy, if I'm right, allegedly. It's like this. People can go their whole lives and never hurt anyone and be a primary psychopath. Okay. And we've got a lot of psychopaths, people that are high in psychopathy, that are very famous politicians and attorneys. Let me ask you this. If you were an attorney and you were representing Bryan Kohberger, knowing everything, you knew all the facts about the case, you knew everything that the law enforcement had, would you have been able, in all good conscience, would you have been able to approach the judge and say, Judge, we believe there were 2 other people that did this, and we are going to present a defense that is going to show that these 2 other guys did this, not Bryan? Knowing everything you had to know about this case, would you do it? No way in hell. If you're sitting next to a man that killed 4 young people in complete cold blood, no way in hell you're going to get up there and put out a defense that is going to point the finger at another person. No way. Your conscience would not allow you to do that. And yet, and then in the end, he stands there and says, oh, I totally did it. Yeah, did it. All 4 of them. Me, I did it. My K-bar, I ordered it from Amazon. I did it. Do you know how many people were looking at those 2 attorneys going, wow. Not only did you guys try to say he was innocent because he had autism. Thank you. Thank you for making people now afraid of those diagnosed with autism. Oh, they have autism. We better be careful. Remember Bryan Kohberger? What an irresponsible thing for an attorney to do. Remember, they had the evidence. They knew damn well, even if he didn't tell them, they had the evidence. You see what I mean? So how much psychopathy do you have to be able to do that in a court of law, to stand up and say, hey, this other guy over here did it. We're going to prove it. Knowing darn well that just wasn't the case. Right, Mark Klein? And that shame, that is what we call a corrective emotion. Guilt is a corrective emotion. Even fear, corrective emotion. Psychopaths don't feel that. And so just like when I talked about Chris Watts, you can have a psychopath, even a primary psychopath, their whole life, they never hurt anybody else. Why is that? Because no one ever got in between them and their desired goal. So for a psychopath, they're kind of like a shark swimming through the ocean, and they're not nice and graceful and smooth, and they do just great until somebody gets in their way, right? Or they get hungry, or they want to have sex and have little baby sharks. So the same is true with humans as any of these kind of apex predators. They can do quite well going through life, doing their thing, But if you get in the way of wish fulfillment, if they have something in their mind that they want, and they perceive that you are the person stopping them from achieving what they want, then they can very easily just dispose of you, get you out of the way so they can go ahead and get back to getting what they want. Chris Watts was a perfect example of that. What did he want? He wanted Nicole Kessinger. He wanted what she had come to represent to him. No more money stress, no more dealing with little kids, no more worry and anger and fighting with parents, and freaky monkey sex, right? That's what he wanted. He made his decision. I want freaky monkey sex and no stress. And this is the girl that can offer me that life. And that's what I need. And Shanann got in the way. She said, you're never going to see your kids again. He was afraid. He said with his own words, he was afraid that he would get to his house that day and the doors would be locked and people would see. She got in the way of his wish fulfillment, getting Nicole Kessinger. What in the world could have gotten in the way of this man if he indeed is a psychopath? Maybe he was after those two little girls. And we're gonna keep on going until we get to that point. I'm not gonna put the cart before the horse. All right. Now then, so we're looking at traits and behaviors that would be that we might see from a person with psychopathy. So the first behaviors or traits we're looking at are interpersonal. That would include superficial charm, manipulation. I mean, think what I said about politicians, very successful business people, right? Lots of superficial charm, lots of the ability to manipulate. Pathological lying. Judge, there's two people that could have killed those 4 kids, and we're going to prove who it was, that it was not Bryan. And thank goodness this judge shut that down and said, no, you're not. And finally, narcissism. Ted Bundy is sort of that iconic psychopath, serial killer, high in narcissistic traits, right? And so often, not always, remember, everything exists on a continuum with human beings. But these psychopathic killers, they often are quite charismatic. They don't feel what they're putting out there. They may come across as being friendly or helpful or funny or romantic or warm. They're not feeling it. They're cold as ice. They're not feeling anything except whatever it is that they're after. They're willing, though, to play a role, to trick you. They know that they have to deceive people for their own personal gain, because if they allowed people to see who they really are, people would be horrified. People would turn away in disgust. And very often there can be, it's not always, but there can be a grandiose sense of self-worth. People that are really high functioning, smart, intelligent, and high in psychopathy, they look at their emotional cold numbness as a strength. They think that they are superior because they can kill someone, go home, take a shower, and do a thumbs up selfie to let someone know that job done. They think that sets them apart from other human beings. They're not burdened by pesky little things called guilt or conscience, right? The affective responses that are often associated with people like psychopathic killers and such. Lack of empathy, not really caring or thinking about what other people might be doing. Shallow emotions, an absolute definite lack of remorse, just basic all around cold-heartedness, right? And very often that comes across as indifference, even in other people's suffering. They're just indifferent to it. They don't care, right? Inability to form deep emotional bonds. This is actually a really big one. You think back to Chris Watts, he had one friend his whole entire life. One friend from childhood, Mark, what was Mark's last name? Mark, I can't believe I forgot the guy's last name. Not Johnson. Does anybody remember? The guy that was in the Navy, Mark. I'll have to look it up in my notes. I can't remember. He had one friend from childhood, a kid that he literally made friends with in elementary school, and they stayed friends through all these years, but he never formed any other friendships. Even the guys that he worked with, they just said that he really stayed to himself. Not Mark Klein. No. Mark from the Navy. All right. He met a lot of people. He had a lot of acquaintances, but he never saw a need to connect with any of them or to maintain friendships. Now, there were people in the neighborhood who thought they were friends with him, but when he was questioned about his friends, he said he didn't have any. Even though there were guys in the neighborhood, guys that he worked with, and they thought, well, I guess we're friends, but that wasn't the way that Chris saw it. I suspect that this dude, Andrew McGann, I don't think he's going to have any friends. I think we see this phenomenon of detachment and avoidance, social withdrawal. I think we're seeing it on steroids with this guy. He goes to one school. He doesn't even finish the year. He resigns. He moves to another school. That school, he does the same thing. He ends before the end of the year. He moves to another school. Some people, I think, on the surface, it was kind of a quick knee-jerk reaction to say, oh, he was offending, right? Like he got caught messing around doing something inappropriate at the first school. And they said, look, we don't want to mess with you. We don't want to have a big investigation because one of our teachers, attacked one of our kids. We just want you to quietly resign and get the hell out of Dodge, right? And then he did it. That is possible. That could have happened. But it also could be that he just felt too uncomfortable with people knowing him, that he could get through the beginning of the year, because you know how it is, the new school, new teachers, new students, people don't really know each other. He could manage that, but then always right after Christmas, right? You come back from Christmas and it's January, and that's when people are like, really, oh my God, it's so great to see you again. Imagine the feeling of discomfort for him to have all these kids coming back and, oh, we missed you so much, Mr. McGann. And what does he say? He doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know what it is. To him, it's just bizarre that all these people are saying that they like him. So that might be that might be account for him leaving the school year every year a bit early, but it also could very well be that he was inappropriate, that the teachers recognize, principals recognize this is a creepazoid. We need to get him out of here before we have a real problem. And then they, in an irresponsible way, in my opinion, kind of just said, okay, he's out our door. He's not our problem anymore. I think if he was inappropriate with the students, I think they should have demanded that he be investigated with the cops and maybe even, made some legal action against his teaching certificate to keep other kids safe, is what I mean. So the fact that he went to 3 different states, was he running from his illegal behavior? Absolutely possible. And I might even be willing to say probable. So I'm just what I'm doing is I'm throwing out all the possibilities, right? I'm not trying to say I'm right or wrong about any one of these. I'm saying these are all possibilities if he in fact is a psychopath, antisocial. I think definitely he probably would satisfy diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder, but we can't do that unless we know if he was conduct disordered, and we don't know that yet, though I suspect we will eventually. So these behavioral and lifestyle factors, impulsivity is a hallmark. It's a big one for these guys. People high in psychopathy, they just can't follow rules because they can't manage their bodies. They act first, think later. So impulsivity is a huge problem. Very, very, very poor behavioral control, which maybe accounts for why so many of them have such extreme social withdrawal, that they can fake it, but maybe it's just too hard, and they're always so scared that their real person's going to come flying out, and then they're going to have to deal with the consequences. But he definitely was not just changing jobs. He was changing states. He was changing schools. He was changing apartments. He was not staying anywhere longer than about 9 months, it looks like. Rule breaking is also a big part of what these people do. They act on whim. They never consider consequences. They're just action, reaction. They have frequent job changes. Historically, they have unstable, maybe even non-existent relationships. And they do seem to be, quite versatile as criminals. Most criminals, if they're thieves, they're thieves. They break into houses or they break into cars. If they're a drug abuser, then they may steal anything, but it's always to buy their drugs. Or maybe their crime is crimes against people. They're engaging in rape and sexual assault. And people that are doing that, they don't often turn around and steal things. Now, sometimes you get people that do all of it. Those are usually people that are high in psychopathy. Like I said about Chris Watts and others, I said about Rex Fuhrman. There'll be more. This wasn't his only one. There's going to be more. I'm convinced of that. And I'm convinced that Bryan Kohberger has killed others. I'm absolutely convinced. And maybe it's some of these missing women that were never found, but I think he's done it before. Some other behaviors or personality traits that are very common to people that are high in psychopathy, psychopathic, deviants. That sometimes boldness, they're very disinhibited. I definitely, people talk about Bryan Kohberger being so quiet and withdrawn. I don't misunderstand. He is hyper controlled, but he's not quiet. He has said audacious things. He has done audacious things. But just because he can sit in a courtroom for 2 hours while people yell at him and he barely flinches, that's not the same thing as being shy or withdrawn. That's someone who's just calculating and is having no emotional reactivity. So these people high in psychopathy may be very bold, very disinhibited. Oh, who does that sound like? Talking about some of the most obscene stuff I've ever heard in my life. from the stepfather of a missing teenager. What about that, Christopher Proudfoot? What do you think about the bold disinhibition of people high in psychopathy? Screaming about people being gang sexually assaulted or sexual abuse towards a child, Christopher Proudfoot. Or how about this one? Go start a shotgun. That was special, wasn't it? Not as special as what you said about fat babies, but creepy as hell and illegal. So don't let Christopher Proudfoot fool you. And he's fooled a lot of people in the true crime community. He's fooled several true crime creators, but these are people that are uneducated and they don't really understand what they're talking about. Christopher Proudfoot has manipulated them to kingdom come and back, even as he demonstrates what really appears to be a high level of psychopathy on a very public platform, YouTube. You've got people that are saying, oh, he's so cute. Look how cute he is. He's talking nice to us. And he hates Brittany too. Okay, stop. It's not normal to say something like, hey, if you don't like that, you can go suck on a shotgun. If you don't like that, I hope you run backwards through a field of men's sexual organs and get gang raped. And the worst one, you can go commit sexual assault against a fat baby. Christopher Proudfoot said the words, that is not normal for anyone. I can barely say them in an academic form. The way he said them was as crass and obscene, using the most filthy cuss words you can imagine, with a high level of rage. I think he was being denied his wish. I think his goal, his wish, was he wanted everybody to stop talking about Sebastian. He wanted no one to talk about the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers anymore. He wanted the problem of Sebastian Rogers to fade into oblivion. And there were channels, there were people that were not willing to let that happen. And those were the people that he attacked so audaciously. So I'm having a little bit of trouble with that particular guy. So these, you can definitely see where, somebody who has an inclination to violence, very poor judgment, they're having problems with disinhibition, impulsivity, shallow or extreme emotion, lack of empathy for others, very poor behavioral control. They think they're special and they can break all the rules, and they're antisocial in action. Well, it's kind of easy to see how these traits would lead to harmful outcomes, right? How these traits could actually result in death of a teenager or the parents of two little kids. Psychopathy is linked to noted neurological differences. In certain areas of the brain, we know that people that are high in psychopathy have reduced activity, electrical activity. It's those areas of the brain that are responsible for empathy. And listen to this, fear processing. Psychopaths don't have fear. That's part of what promotes this level of animosity and disinhibition. Fear is a corrective emotion. Fear is something that we all have that keeps us out of trouble. If you see someone doing something wrong and you think, like being mean to a little kid, you may think, I'm going to knock his head off his shoulders, resulting in you being the one that goes to prison. But fear of, okay, if I do that, I don't really know what will happen to me. I might end up being a hero, and I might also end up being under the jailhouse. I'm going to hold back and call 911 instead, right? That's a corrective emotion. Fear is something that keeps you safe, and it keeps you from acting out in a way that would be antisocial. These guys, they don't have that. They don't feel fear. There's no shame in what they do. They have no guilt. So they don't experience, and with primary psychopaths, it is certain areas of the brain that are inactive or underactive. So they're not capable of feeling these things. It's not that it's trained out of them, or they make the decision not to let these corrective emotions affect them, but rather they literally just, that's how they're born. There's a lot of other theories about that. I am of the belief, after seeing a lot of the research that is measuring the neurological responses, I'm of the opinion that these people are born as they are. So is Andrew McGann a psychopath? Well, this is a 28-year-old man that 3 different schools, 3 different jobs in 3 different years, not completing either of the 3, moving to 3 different states, right? Using 3 different names. One time he's James McGann, another time he's Andrew McGann, and then he's Drew McGann. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I've kind of already gone through the different possibilities. But ultimately, he's started as an elementary school teacher from Springdale, Arkansas. And I think that he comes from a family where the dad was also a teacher of sorts. He was arrested yesterday, was charged with 2 counts of capital murder in the stabbing death of Clinton Brink and Cristen Brink, 43 and 41 years old. They had just moved to the area, having traveled, been in California, Montana, South Dakota, and they were, back with his brother. The murder happened in Devil's Den State Park, and it is, these 2 parents are outright heroes. When this kid approached them, the father fought back. The mother ran with the 2 girls, and when they got far enough away, she told the 2 girls, "You run and do not stop running, no matter what. Do not quit running. No matter what you hear, you run. Run as far away as you can. Don't stop." And the 2 girls did that, 7 years old and 9 years old. The 2 girls did that, but then the mom, unfortunately, went back, I guess maybe to check on the dad. And McGann was still there with the dad. The dad was dead. And the mother was heard asking, "Why are you doing this?" And then McGann killed her. So there are some people that believe that his goal, his desire, his wish was to have these 2 girls. That the behavior, the inappropriate nature of interactions with girls at previous schools, that he had an appetite for young girls, and that they were his target. And that Mr. Brink, Mrs. Brink, they had to die because they were in the way of him reaching wish fulfillment, right? The cops have come out publicly and said there is no prior connection between James Andrew McGann and the Brink family. McGann was originally from Illinois. He attended Fenwick High School in Oak Park, Illinois. He earned a Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education in Oklahoma. Again, why do you leave Illinois and go to Oklahoma? I know that there are people that leave their home state to attend maybe a prestigious college, a very specific curriculum, perhaps. Usually those people, though, are really high functioning. They made excellent grades. They've got a scholarship. That doesn't appear to have been McGann. Is this another piece of evidence that shows his lack of connection, that he made no friends in high school, that he had no interest in remaining close with his parents and family? It could be another piece of the puzzle that he would leave Illinois and go all the way to Oklahoma just to get a bachelor's degree in elementary education. It's very strange. He's worked at 3 different schools, or 2 schools, and then he didn't start at the other one, but Donald Elementary in Louisville, that's in Texas, Spring Creek Elementary in Oklahoma, and then he was supposed to start at Springdale Public Schools in Arkansas, and then he got arrested, so he never started there. He was in the process of getting a fade shave on the back of his head, but the lady who was doing the cut said that he was very specific not to cut the front of his hair because he liked it to hang down in his face. I believe he went to get that shave on the back of his head because the law enforcement came out with that picture where he's standing there looking down this hill, and someone was able to get a photograph of him from behind, which showed his hair was kind of long in the back. Right. So I think that's what he was trying to do. There is no public record so far. No, the cops have not been able to find, or at least they haven't released to the general public. Is McGann had any diagnoses at all? We don't know if he's diagnosed with personality disorder. We don't know if he's ever been assessed for psychopathy. We don't know if he had conduct disorder or oppositional defiant disorder as a kid. I'll bet you $1 to a donut he's been diagnosed with ADHD. What do you want to bet? I bet he's been diagnosed with ADHD and a handful of other things. Not that he was really having these problems, but because people knew something was wrong and they just couldn't put their finger on what it was. So from him teaching these 2 years, there have been some parents that have come forward to say, hey guys, he doesn't just look creepy, he is creepy. They have described him as having poor judgment. He's very manipulative by playing favorites among the children. And so there were parents that also described him as really cold, really disinterested in the students. One of them even said, Mr. McGann is the most standoffish teacher I have ever encountered. They said that he would be asked a question by even the students in class. He would give one-word responses. He wouldn't look at you when he was answering questions. So when we consider psychopathic traits, people behind psychopathy, shallow emotions, lack of empathy, disengagement, with social withdrawal, it's all right there, isn't it? Like just in those few descriptions, we see the emotional factors that would suggest psychopathy. But what about some of the other stuff? There were multiple kids, their parents. There were multiple sets of parents that came out and said that one of the things that was so creepy about this guy McGann is that he was so overtly showing favoritism to certain girls. He would have special girls. This dude is teaching 5th grade, y'all. This is gross. He would have special girls that he would invite in front of the whole class. he would invite a couple of special girls to stay alone in his classroom to have lunch. While everybody else has gone to cafeteria, he'd have one or two of these little girls in the classroom with him. He was often seen giving them extra treats, something special. If there was recess, then the special girls, the couple that he picked out from the class, he would invite them to stay in the classroom with him and help him, like the same ones every single day. And it was so noticeable, the favoritism to these couple of girls in a couple of classes. It was so uncomfortable that many of these kids went home and told their parents, this teacher I think he's got something weird happening with little Jessica or little Mary or little Debbie. That's how overt it was. One kid told the principal and the cops that he actually heard McGann tell one of the girls, if you were older, I would love to marry you. Now, I'm sorry. If I'm a principal at a school, I'm not just going to say, I don't want to deal with this problem. I want him out. I don't want to deal with him. And you just get rid of him. You say, look, you've got a choice here. We're either going to fire you and we're going to report you to the cops, or you can quietly resign and move along. Is that what happened? I don't know. I'm problem solving out loud. I don't know. But I think that what we need in this nation, we need some kind of national teachers database reporting tool, right? For these situations where we don't have, because of other good teachers and good students, we don't actually have situations that ended up with actual victims, but there are serious enough questions that the cops were notified and there were investigations that started. We need to do that where kids are concerned. We really do. We need some way that if this happens in Texas and you're a principal in Oklahoma, you really need to know, hey, this guy's been under investigation 2 times in 2 years for inappropriate behavior towards little girls. This may not be somebody I want in my school. But right now, the way it stands, the only way we know if someone's a creep is if there's literally an identified victim, which is terrifying, right? It's absolutely terrifying. So that would actually be a really great project for somebody to work on, to try and get some kind of legal guideline or database that could be considered legal, something that a teaching certificate could be flagged, maybe just named inappropriate behavior, but kind of everybody knows, wink, wink, what that means, right? We need some way to keep our students safe, because this guy, 3 schools in 3 years, 2 of those schools, he didn't even make it through the whole year. And the 3rd school, he didn't even get started because of murder. It's really quite terrifying. So in all, the parents calling this guy eerie, and that everybody was calling him sick pervert and monster before he even left the school. They were already giving him these names before, the principals were told and before the police were doing their investigations. All of this, the way he was treating these little girls, keeping them back, the special ones, giving them special treats, telling them, if you were older, I would love to marry you. All of that. Manipulation, correct? Isn't that manipulation? Especially being done right there in front of the rest of the class. We call it inappropriate behavior, but I promise if you're one of the kids in the classroom watching that happen, your own natural behavior is being manipulated because of what you see. He also not only did he have inappropriate behavior, but terrible classroom management. It was a disaster. His classrooms were a complete disaster. So many people felt that these reports were swept under the rug, and they were very angry at their school boards because they didn't do more, or angry at law enforcement because nothing was done to stop this guy. And horrifically, he murders 2 parents out in the woods. It's just the worst outcome imaginable, right? So he was manipulative. Everyone saw it, impulsive. And he was allowed to resign without consequences, where he then moved on to 2 different school districts. This random stabbing of this couple with the children there demonstrates extreme disregard for others, impulsivity, and inclination to violence. These are all core psychopathic traits or features. But I would also say that the girls were the target. He wasn't looking to kill someone. He was wanting contact with the girls, and the parents got in his way. I believe that. He was an apex predator and a psychopath, and that's what he was after. So he killed for frustration that wish fulfillment was being denied him by the 2 parents. It has been described as incredibly brutal. The attack on both parents was very brutal, and that he behaves with no apparent remorse, and that the cops that were there during the booking and the arrest and all that, I guess I should say the arrest and the booking, that it was really disconcerting how cold he is and robotic. So when I call this guy a Bryan Kohberger doppelganger, are we really very far off the mark? If you think of him, after going through all of these things kind of pulled together into one statement, do you see Bryan Kohberger in his actions? And these guys are like 2 peas in a pod. And then when you add in their appearance, that cold, unwavering glare, he's terrifying. As terrifying as Bryan Kohberger. Absolutely terrifying. So do I think that James Andrew McGann may be a psychopath? Well, lack of empathy, manipulation, impulsive violence, no corrective emotion that we can see, no kind of connections to other people or other places, frequent movement around, restricted affect, I think he is. You look at his history, you look at what we know about this crime, you look at even his physical presentation. He sure does, going just by what we know up to today, August the 1st, I would be comfortable saying, my opinion, I would say he's probably high in psychopathy. If you agree with me, if you think this guy is likely high in psychopathy, put a 1. And if you think that he just looks like a sweet, cute little bunny, put a 2. I don't understand the rage leading this crime. What brings them that to target these people? Sweet Melissa, I think it was wish fulfillment. I think look, I don't know any more than what you guys know. I'm going just by the reports from the news and the parents and the cops, okay? I think that he wanted the 2 little girls. That the 2 little girls, that was the target. And the parents were fighting tooth and nail to protect their babies. So the parents were blocking him from getting what he wanted. So he ended them. Every bit as sure as what Chris Watts wanted was Nicole Kessinger and what her lifestyle was. That's what he wanted. He didn't want Shanann anymore. He didn't want the headache. He didn't want the little kids. He didn't want any of that. He wanted the freaky monkey sex with Nicole Kessinger with no responsibilities. And Shanann got in the way. And that's why she and the kids had to die. No relation to a sociopathic bunny. Coming from someone who should know, Keister Bunny, I definitely defer to your expertise on the bunny department, Keister. Okay. Yeah, I think this guy's going to come out to be a real loser. I sure do. Yep. And it's just probably a spoiled kid. Yeah, maybe. Won't it be interesting, y'all, to learn about his high school experiences? That's going to be so interesting. That is going to be so interesting. It's like a weird hyper focus with these people. That's exactly what it is, KJ Mac. It's the goal, hyper focus on goal attainment, and disregard for anything that would stand in their way. If you're trying to get in between them and their goal, you're going to suffer with no level of regret or remorse, guilt. None. They do not feel corrective emotion. I heard several people talking, saying, why would he just admit? Like, why would he just jump up and admit, hey, I did this. I went out there. I found this little family. I did the dirty deed, both of them. And yeah, you got me. You caught me. You got me. Why would he just admit to it? He doesn't care. He doesn't, there's nothing inside. There's no fear. He's not, just like you saw with Bryan Kohberger. He has no fear of going to prison. He doesn't care. Being in prison is not any bigger of a burden or hardship than trying to figure out how to make money when you're a psychopathic deviant and everyone knows you're a creep. Did he have any issues back then that were expunged? We don't know, Melmac. We don't know yet. We don't know. An ex-girlfriend, any roommates, neighbors, coworkers will come out. Yeah, it's coming. It's absolutely. Chances are small animals suffered. Yeah, I think Bryan Kohberger was responsible for Buddy's death in Moscow. And there were some other animals that were skinned and left kind of in a threatening way around the campus. So one of those guys was Schoberger, but he got kicked out of his fraternity for that. But anyway, yeah, they are scary people. Nana Flower Power, so good to see you. Yeah, they are scary people. And the reason that they're so scary is because they don't care. They're not human in the sense of feeling empathy or connection to others. They just don't have that. It's not there. Everything's transactional, and they're 100% driven by wish fulfillment. That's all, nothing else. Even like when he was teaching single word answers, right? He didn't care that he wasn't doing a good job. He didn't care that anybody would judge him and say, you're doing a terrible job. He didn't care. And if they got sick of him and said, you're done, get out of here, he's like, okay, I don't care. I don't like it here. So yeah, I think he was focused on the two little girls. That's what I think. Think of the narcissistic's prayer. That's right. And I can't say this enough too. Remember that all things human, personality traits and deviancies, it all exists on a continuum, a spectrum, right? There will be people that have these traits, but it's very mild, and maybe they just come off as sort of being a jerk, or a cold, unfeeling person. Or they're your basic monster, like James Andrew McGann and Bryan Kohberger. I just can't get over that they are so similar in terms of like their personalities and their background and history, but also the way they look. It's just so weird. It's just so weird. So creepy. So creepy. Hey, Mystic Firefly. Mystic Firefly. I'm afraid to tell you this, but we're finished. But I'm glad we got to see you. I'm glad you're here. They don't care about what anyone else will suffer. It's only about what benefits them. Yeah, it's whatever they want and nothing else matters. Literally nothing. Yep. Okay. How long was that? An hour and 15 minutes. That's not too bad, right? It's okay. All right. It's in the eyes. Oh, so scary. Such scary eyes. Diamond Paul, my friend. How are you doing? Okay. I hope tonight's Friday. I don't know if you guys have anything fun planned this weekend. I hope that you do. And if anybody finds anything new about this guy, if there's any more information coming out about him, send me an email because I am eager to hear about his high school days specifically. Eager. I keep missing you because I get your channel name mixed up with others. Did you hear Ghislaine was moved to a prison in Bryan, Texas? Oh, can you add Jot to your name? Jot is for Jewels of Thought. Yeah, actually, you know what I've been thinking about, Mystic? I've been thinking about going, okay, so my channel is actually at True Crime Jewels, and I've been actually considering just changing it from Allegedly Innocent to True Crime Jewels because creeps are like, oh, allegedly innocent. Oh, innocent. And I'm like, no, weirdo. I'm 75 years old, not allegedly innocent. No, but yeah, I was thinking about just making it True Crime Jewels. So, but I wish you wouldn't get it confused, Mystic Firefly, because I like you. All right. I may change it, Mystic, just for you, Mystic Firefly. I'm washing my bedding because my dog, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, KJ. These poor little dogs and what they have to experience with all of our fireworks celebrations. I don't even really like fireworks. Are you going to cover Donna Adelson? I am going to cover Donna Adelson. Look, I think Donna absolutely did it. No, I have zero doubt about that. I think it was actually Donna, Wendy, and Katie Magbanoa. I think they did it. And I just don't know about Charlie. And I know that makes people really angry. Like people are really mad at me about that. They hate me because I don't see how he gives up his life for a sister that he really didn't really hardly ever see. That is very strange to me. I have a hard time believing that. But I am one person, and there are literally tens of thousands of people that are 100% convinced that he was, in fact, the ringleader in this, and I defer to them. But my own feeling, my own thoughts, it's hard for me to see it. And you know what I think? I think we're going to find out. And the reason I say I think we're going to find out, I almost expect him to take the stand during Donna's trial and speak out against her. I think that's going to happen. So that will be very interesting to hear. Did you hear what's going on in Montana? No, Mystic Firefly. What's happening in Montana? I always said when I got old, I wanted to own a mountain in Montana, but sadly, I'm old. I'm just not rich. So, Montana. You're kind of scaring me. What happened in Montana? Oh no. Oh no. Okay, so at least 4 to 6 dead in a mass shooting at the Owl Bar in Anaconda, Montana. Perpetrators still on the loose in an F-150 pickup truck. Preliminary information, subject to change quickly. This is still happening. What is happening? The suspect is, oh, they have a suspect. 45-year-old Michael Brown of Anaconda. He is a veteran. He has now hijacked a vehicle and killed 2 more people. Boy, he is. Here, let me share with y'all. Hold on just a second here. Wow, this is awful. Thank you, Mystic Firefly, for giving me the heads up. Okay, so that's the dude right there. So he killed like 6 people at the Owl Bar, OWL, the Owl Bar, and then he killed 2 people and stole their vehicle. And they don't know where he's at. FBI personnel are responding to the scene in Anaconda, Montana to provide any requested assistance or investigative support. I think it happened this morning, y'all. Suspect identified after multiple fatalities. A shooting at the Owl Bar in Anaconda has resulted in multiple fatalities, according to law enforcement officials. The suspect is identified as 45-year-old Michael Brown, and he remains at large. Michael, dude, you twisted the hell off, didn't you? Wow. They say he's a veteran. He's military. The whole town of Anaconda is on lockdown. Look at that quaint little town. Wow. I guess that's why the FBI offered assistance, because, you know, they probably don't have a very big police force. Wow. Let's see if we got sound. Yeah.
The shooter reportedly fled the Owl Bar, and they're currently being pursued. That's according to the Granite County Sheriff's Office. They said, please avoid the area. On my way down here, I saw a Montana Highway Patrol car speeding by me to get to the scene and help out. As I said, it's town's on lockdown. We have no official word on the number of casualties, no official word on where the active shooter is at the moment. All we have is what we can see here, which includes Butte Silver Bow's SWAT team, special weapons and tactics, I should clarify, is here as well now. All hands on deck law enforcement wise. No official information other than there's been reports of an active shooter. The town's on lockdown. That's really all we have.
I'm looking, map Anaconda, Montana. Just looking to see. Where it is. I've never heard of it before. It is northwest of Bozeman, Montana, toward Idaho. I guess I can. Wow. So if you look at this map, it's about right there. Right there. And then that's Colorado right there. Holy smokes. Anaconda, Montana mass shooter Michael Paul Brown has a brother named William Brown who is serving 120 years in prison for murdering someone in Anaconda back in 2000. Good Lord. What? My goodness. Anyone know how close to Canada it is? It looks pretty close. Let's go back over here. Actually, I have a much better map to share, Mystic. Hold on, I'll show you. Wow. So not only does he have an anger problem, but his old brother Willie has a problem as well. Got to get that anger under control, folks. Got to learn a little diaphragmatic breathing. Got to stay calm. All right, let's take a look and see. Okay, so go smaller here. Okay, so this is Colorado. This is Wyoming. Can y'all see that? Let me double check first. No, you're still looking at me. I don't like that. Add to the stage. All right, there you go. Okay. So here's Colorado right here. Utah, Colorado. Wyoming. Damn, what did I do? Is that a what happened to the map? Where is it? It won't even move. The whole thing is a mess. That was weird. Okay, so your question is how close to Canada? Hold on, Mystic. I'm going to pull it back up again, okay? My apologies. That page went berserk. I was on MapQuest. It went crazy. We'll try Google Maps this time, okay? So let me back out of here. And I need to share. Share. All right, so that is Anaconda right there. So we're going to back out here. Okay, so this is Wyoming right here. Make sure you guys can see that, okay? Nope. Here we go. All right. This is Wyoming. This is the diagonal of Idaho. This is that Washington? Calgary, British Columbia. So this, where this red mark is, that's Anaconda. And this line right here is the border to Canada, to British Columbia. So it's probably, what would you guess? Probably 5 hours to the yeah, maybe 4 or 5 hours to the border. Is that what you were asking? Most CEOs have a level of sociopathy. I would agree with that. So do you know someone in British Columbia, Mystic? I mean, both brothers are heinous murderers. That's kind of scary. Anger lowers the immune system for at least 24 hours afterwards, and in this case, causes incarceration. Thank you so much for those facts, Truth Seeker. Even Montana has violence. I think they only have 500,000 people in the whole state. See where it says Winnipeg? That's where I am. Oh, wow. Well, you know, he's probably not going to be able to go across the border, would be my guess, right? They probably, immigration probably has it locked down pretty hard, would be my guess. All right. Yeah, so that's where it's all happening, right there. Right there. Interesting. Now I'm going to have to read about his brother and find out what the story was on why his brother is serving 120 years. College psychology professor warned us that some of the most successful people are clinically associated with psychopathy. Not all psychopaths are serial killers. That is exactly factually true, Blonde PT. My son is like a hobo picking fruits in the orchards. Well, hopefully he's not going to be around any of those orchards. He migrates down the western border and goes to Belize. Oh my gosh. If I was footloose and fancy free, retirement in Belize would be amazing. Belize is beautiful. They have the most beautiful color water. It's amazing. Yeah. Well, all right. So it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And I do hope that you guys either have something really, really fun planned for this weekend, or if you don't, just have fun where you are. You know what I mean? All right. I don't know. I'm going to have to write a song for all these psychopathic deviants. I don't have any songs that are appropriate for psychopathic deviants. All right. But I think it'll be okay if we go out to this one. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for listening to me talk. I hope that you'll hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't already, so you'll know when I put up some new content. And yeah, thanks for spending time with me. I appreciate it. All right. See you later. Welcome to the shit show.
Yeah. And I burnt that channel. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin, voracious virtue signalers cashing
yes,
in.
Yes, you do. How are you?
They're fixing the game, pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause, digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight, like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crashes in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Or it'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. That'll burn their channels in the dust. Spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. channels. What's in the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust, the dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust.